What's up, guys? Welcome back. We were out here last Sunday. We did our hinge cuts for what we're going to be doing on the property. Not quite as many as we thought, but I'll explain all that here in a minute or two. Going to get up a quick turkey blind since turkey season here in Michigan starts next weekend, next Saturday, and then we'll get to it.
While I get this blind up, one of the things you might notice here coming up later in the video is that we have a high number of trees, a high stick count, and maybe a select cut would have been a way to possibly go, but I just didn't want all the roads that they would create and kind of the mess with that. So I decided not to do the select cut, just drop the trees, but it did make things a little thicker, and you're going to know what I mean here shortly.
I don't know about you guys, but quite often the blinds that I set up, they're nothing special. Just some, cheap Dunhams or whatever. I think Ameristep blinds. This one actually is my dad's. Last year, I just would set some up and they'd get blown over. And if I tried to leave them out for a month or more, for deer season or turkey season, I'd have to reset them up every time. They'd never stay in the ground. And then I ended up with a bunch of holes in mine. So I threw mine out. I borrowed this one. But anyway, I am buying these, or bought these stakes off of Amazon. I think they're 10 or 12 inch. They have like some, better anchors, or if you need to use rope for a regular tent or something. And I'm hoping these keep the blind in the ground better. So I'll let you know if that works, but I think it's probably well worth the 10-15 bucks to get stakes like these. If the blind's going to be there and actually in the ground and ready. I got poles in, I got the stakes in and all that good stuff. So I'll keep you guys posted on that. All right, so we just got off of the food plot. I don't know if you could see it right over there in the background, but this is one of the bedding areas that I have situated, kind of four, I guess, technically bedding areas. I'll put the map on the screen so you guys can see it, and the red X's are kind of our intended bedding areas. But I want to flip the camera around real quick, and I want to show you, off the plot, this circle of trees that we've dropped. And this is actually the exact first spot where I did the canopy, video, opening up the canopy. So you can see, the sun is just beating down on this area, a lot more side cover. But before I get to the hinge cuts, I wanted to show you this because we actually didn't do any hinge cuts here. We just dropped the trees, we just opened up the light, and even though, yes, this is the most open area right here where I'm standing, it's quite thick around it. And I am going to walk over there and show you guys another area that's just like this, but it is quite thick around the edges, and I do not want to make it too thick to where the deer don't want to be in here, they don't have their escape routes and things of that nature. And so I just kind of wanted to remind you guys that even though even to myself, hinge cuts seem like the greatest idea for food, for opening up sun and getting more food on the ground and creating side cover and other beds and things like that. But at the same time, it's got to be right for the deer. And this being, excuse me, open hardwoods, they're not used to a complete, absolute swamp thicket, right? We have ag fields around, and then we have this open timber. And that's basically my general area here in southeastern Michigan. So with that, since I had so many trees and so much side cover, I decided to just drop the trees. I did plan on hinge cutting, but once I saw all these trees down, I just simply do not want to make it any thicker, at least for the time being. And of course, like I always say, we're going to come back at hunting season and after hunting season and really get a thorough check on how this went and what deer, if any, were using it, and if we think it can be better. But I'm going to walk over here and I am going to show you guys kind of the other pockets, or at least one or two of them, to show you the similar spot. And we did do hinge cuts, and I'm going to take you there after this next spot and show you guys how that looks, because it's sweet. I'm so pumped. The other thing is, guys, we are in, I don't know, April 10th, somewhere in there on Saturday, and look at the green coming up already. Over there, I know it's about that time, but it came quick this year, and I'm sure you guys are just as busy as I am trying to get this stuff done, and it's just getting more and more exciting. All right, guys, we are at basically one of the red X's that are on the far north side. There's two there on the far north, you'll see them. And again, these are the bedding areas before the northern travel corridors. So on the inside of the property where we expect the deer to be bedding, and as you can see behind me, and I'm gonna flip the camera around to show you a little better. You know, that first time Jeff came out last August, Jeff Sturgis from Whitetail Habitat Solutions, he said, drop around 20 trees or so if you can before the season. Well, now we've had, you know, this year to do as much as, you know, we wanted to. And so I came in, and outside of those 20 trees, this year we've probably dropped somewhere between, you know, 30 and 50, somewhere in there is kind of my guess. And it's just so thick in some of these pockets. And yes, I can come in and, you know, chop some other lanes with the saw and stuff like that, but this is also without new tree growth, you know, with the leaves on the trees and things like that. And I think this is really going to thick enough for the deer to have enough side cover to get a ton more sun. I mean, it did not have quite as much of this sun coming down on it, and hopefully that new growth just creates enough to where we see a lot more activity. Especially, this is the northeast corner that way, and that was probably our weakest corner. And so I'm really hoping that all this added cover, all the hinge cuts that we're going to go to that northeast corner for, water hole, you know, things like that, will create a better pattern so they use the whole property. But I just wanted to show you, get your opinion. I'm not going to walk through the whole thing and make the video 20 minutes, but wanted to show you that we're not doing any hinge cuts in this area. I personally think that's enough, and again, we're going to come back hunting season after hunting season, kind of review how things went and how they're going. So let's head over to the hinge cuts. All right, so we made it back to the northeast corner, and you can see another water hole, the second one that's going to go in this corner, as well as, let me turn you around, tree stand right, where are you? Somewhere right up in there. Only 20-25 yards right to this travel corridor. This was a mock scrape hanging right here off of a rope that I'm probably going to move. I'm going to put the water hole here again to get these deer turning up and then heading right up through our travel corridor. You can start to see some of our hinge guts on this side, all the way up to the food plot and the trail. It's a little bit farther on this side. It's probably 200 yards plus, maybe a little more, I'm not sure, but this kind of gives you an idea of that other corner. All right, so in addition, I want to take you guys through the hinge cuts that we did. I know I said I only did them on this one corner, at least so far. We're gonna, of course, feather some fields this summer and probably add some other hinge cuts to the other watering hole that we have on the northwest corner. Just a few to kind of, again, guide the deer to our food. But I want to turn the camera around and just show you guys, you know, how things look for us. It's a little bit different for everyone. Now here is the trail, and you can kind of see the nice open area that cuts through. It's still at least 6-8 feet wide or so. And again, that is because, you know, the deer right here are not used to super swamp, you know, thickets. This is kind of open hardwood. So as you kind of meander, we have decent side cover. The other thing you're going to notice is with the stand over there, we're on a ridge. So this ridge kind of follows and kind of just dips down to our drainage that goes east and west. And then right over that is where the next field and the food plot is going to be. So the natural movement for the water hole and the hinge cuts was to kind of follow this ridge. We had some rubs and things of that nature. If there's not enough side cover, because our access trail is right before the field, that's the neighbors, our access trail goes right along the border, so there's not enough. We can drop a few more trees without a problem, whether they're hinge cuts or just felling them. We don't want to do them too close to the trail again because you know, we don't want deer bedding right next to where the trail is going to be. So if we continue this way, you can see some hinges. It's nice and wide. They have plenty of room to escape. And those are some felled trees. Now we did not want to do, you know, much parallel to the travel corridor. So anything that you see that's like that tree over there, for example, is really just by accident. And when we were falling trees, I am not lining anything up really parallel much at all. Just kind of some sporadic hinges, but really leaving this nice and open. This was just a dropped tree here. There's a good hinge right there. I think that was an elm, if I'm not mistaken. And I'll come back, maybe clean a few things up. But really, you can see, I mean, this is kind of the normal path. And again, this is before vegetation has really started. It's not a perfectly straight line. It kind of meanders. All right, you can see our tape of kind of how I outlined it. You can even see an old logging road here that kind of goes to the neighbors, and we didn't want to block this. One, it'd be paralleling it, and two, it's kind of an escape route for them to go or maybe come back to bedding from the neighbors to our property. And then here you can see some hinge cuts, but the trail kind of just continues on. It'll cross the drainage and go to those fields. So not a ton of hinge cuts, just enough to kind of guide them. It'll thicken up, of course. You can see some of the green up and the natural vegetation that's coming. And then just some, you know, felled trees previously that were more or less done last year and just kind of happened to be that way. So I hope that gives you guys an idea. Again, leaving some escape routes for the deer. It's not overly thick. I see some that are absolutely crazy, super thick, and I worry that the deer just aren't going to want to go down it as much. But again, when it comes to hinge cutting, this is really my first year implementing it at all. You know, Jeff came last August. We didn't do any. We just dropped a couple trees before the hunting season. So really looking forward to seeing how the deer are going to use this travel corridor. And we will also put a camera or two on here and maybe move that mock scrape farther this way to where it'll lead them, continue that pattern of movement like we're trying to create to the food plot trail, keep them moving around the property. So more to come. Can't wait to see how this does. I'm very excited. Whoa, very excited about it. And I hope you guys are having some success with this and getting it done too. The other thing, last thing I wanted to mention, which I just heard from Jeff, and I hadn't heard this before, is with the hinge cuts, when the trees are starting to leaf out, you know, they bud and then they start to leaf out, you don't want to keep hinging into that, because then you're taking some of the tree's energy, and they really need it, I guess, to grow and kind of perform during that time. So after trees kind of leaf out, I guess it's best to wait a couple of months until, you know, mid to late summer and kind of finish the hinge cutting, which we'll do a few more then as well. So again, don't have anything else to back that, but I trust Jeff, and I'm going to give everything my best until proven otherwise. So if you guys haven't done too many yet, you may want to hold off depending on how much you need to do, and good luck, be safe.